Welcome everyone to the program. We're coming to you live from the nation's capital of Washington, D.C. And before we get to the top stories of the day, we start with the latest global headlines. China cancels about 40% of scheduled flights to Japan in December as the tensions between the two largest economies in Asia grow over Taiwan. Canada announces it's joined a $174 billion European defense financing program, giving its companies greater access to regional markets and helping the country create resilient supply chains. Australia unveils a roadmap to boost artificial intelligence adoption across its economy, relying on existing laws to manage emerging risk and stepping back from earlier plans for stricter rules on high-risk applications. An industry group warns that Germany's economy is suffering its deepest crisis since World War II, urging Chancellor Friedrich Merz's government to take urgent action to revive growth. And Samsung unveils its first multifolding smartphone, aiming to strengthen the tech giant's position in a segment where competition from Chinese rivals is intensifying. Tensions between Washington and Caracas have surged to their most volatile point in years as a series of dramatic revelations, high-level calls, military maneuvers, and political shifts across Latin America push the US-Venezuela standoff into uncharted territory. The latest flashpoint emerged after reports that President Donald Trump delivered a blunt ultimatum to Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro during a phone call believed to have taken place on November 21st. Now, according to sources cited by the Miami Herald, President Trump told the Venezuelan leader to relinquish power immediately in exchange for safe passage for himself and close family members. Maduro allegedly refused and instead demanded global amnesty and the right to retain influence over Venezuela's armed forces, conditions Washington ultimately rejected. Now, President Trump later confirmed the call but gave no details, describing it simply as a phone call. Caracas, too, declined to elaborate, instead accusing the United States of intimidation through military pressure.
Times reported that you had a phone call with Maduro. Did you?
I don't want to comment on it. The answer is yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about it?
No, I can't do that.
Mr. President, would you say it went well?
I wouldn't say it went well or badly. It was a phone call.
Now, the call came amid a 4-month U.S. campaign marked by huge naval buildup in the Caribbean, the world's largest aircraft carrier station near Venezuelan waters, and repeated U.S. airstrikes on boats that Washington claims are linked to drug trafficking. At least 83 people have been killed in these operations, sparking outrage and calls for investigations within Venezuela's National Assembly. Now, despite the mounting pressure, Maduro has embraced a defiant posture. At rallies in Caracas, he's dismissed President Trump's approach as an attempt to impose a slave's peace and vowed absolute loyalty to the Venezuelan people.
Do have absolute certainty that, just as I swore before the body of our commander Hugo Chavez, before saying farewell to him, absolute loyalty at the cost of my own life and peace of mind, I swear to you absolute loyalty, even beyond the time in which we are able to live this beautiful and heroic history. Be sure that I will never fail you. Never, never, never.
Tengan la seguridad que jamás le fallaré, jamás, nunca jamás.
Back here in Washington, the White House is weighing its next steps. President Trump has summoned top national security officials to the Oval Office, and the White House has refused to disclose whether the final decision has in fact been made. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said the U.S. would not rule out the option of troops on Venezuelan soil, though some Republican lawmakers are now insisting that Washington has no intention of launching a ground invasion. Still, reports of President Trump warning that operations by land could begin soon have deepened unease in the region.
Broadcast any actions that may or may not be happening with respect to Venezuela. I know I've been very clear about the administration's position, as has the president and his national security team. You can expect to see those strikes continue.
Meanwhile, Maduro's diplomatic isolation continues to widen. Recent elections in Honduras and St. Vincent and the Grenadines unseated two of his ideological allies, signaling a broader regional shift away from Chavismo. Even left-leaning governments that once maintained warm relations, such as Brazil, Mexico, Chile, and Colombia, have kept their distance, especially after Maduro claimed victory in the disputed 2024 election, despite evidence pointing to opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez. With more than a dozen U.S. warships and 15,000 troops now deployed as part of Operation Southern Spear, the stakes continue to rise. Colombia's President Gustavo Petro has offered Cartagena as a neutral venue for talks, but for now, neither side appears ready to compromise. And with Washington silent on Maduro's request for a second call and U.S. forces tightening their ring around Venezuela, the next move may determine whether this crisis shifts towards diplomacy or something far more unpredictable. And now to New York, where federal immigration authorities were forced to abandon a planned enforcement operation after hundreds of demonstrators converged on Lower Manhattan, blocking government vehicles and clashing with police. The chaotic scenes unfolded last weekend where agents from Customs and Border Protection, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and the Department of Homeland Security had assembled for what would have been their second major raid in the area in 6 weeks. And by early afternoon, the crowd had swelled to roughly 200 people. Video footage broadcast by WABC showed officers loading arrested protesters into vans as scuffles broke out between demonstrators and NYPD personnel assisting with crowd control.
Yes, sir. Arresting innocent people. Arresting bystanders. Nice.
A Homeland Security spokesperson said individuals dressed in black clothing with backpacks, face masks, and goggles had obstructed officers after social media posts urged activists to converge on the location. Federal officials insisted the violence came from agitators and warned that anyone assaulting law enforcement would be prosecuted. City officials, however, questioned why the NPD Strategic Response Group was involved at all, noting that local law prohibits the department from assisting in federal immigration efforts.
ICE threatened the public safety yet again, and this time, their actions created a dangerous situation for both the public and our NYPD officers. That is utterly irresponsible.
Now, Saturday's abandoned raid followed an October operation in Chinatown, during which federal agents arrested 9 people alleged to be living in the country illegally, a sweep that triggered another spontaneous protest and drew condemnation from leading Democrats.
Oh shit! Get hit with the guy, yo!
It also comes amid President Trump's drive to surge immigration personnel into major cities in pursuit of what the administration hopes will be record deportation numbers. As of mid-November, more than 2/3 of the roughly 53,000 people detained by ICE had no criminal convictions, according to agency data. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, who takes office in January, denounced the weekend's events as cruel and inhumane, saying such raids do nothing for public safety, and pledged to defend the city's more than 3 million immigrants.
ICE raids are cruel, inhumane, and do nothing to serve public safety. My responsibility is to be the mayor to each and every person that calls this city their home. That includes millions of immigrants, of which I am one.
Federal authorities have signaled that more operations are in fact planned. Meanwhile, protesters vow they will be back. And with both sides continuing to dig in, New York may only be witnessing the beginning chapter of a much larger showdown. Tech giant Apple is in turmoil, and the cracks are no longer hidden. The company that once defined the future is now fighting to catch up, losing top AI talent, delaying key projects, and watching its rivals race far ahead. The sudden exit of Apple's AI chief has exposed deep internal rifts, stalled innovation, and a culture struggling to adapt to the new era of artificial intelligence. With CEO Tim Cook's rumored retirement next year and Apple scrambling to regain control, the spotlight is now on a company at war with its own future. Here's more from our report.
Apple once believed it had found its AI savior. In 2018, John Giannandrea, the man who helped shape Google's most advanced AI systems, walked into Apple Park with a promise. A new chapter, a new Siri, a new future. But 7 years later, that promise is collapsing under its own weight. Apple confirmed on Monday that Giannandrea is stepping down as head of artificial intelligence.
We are thankful for the role John played in building and advancing our AI work, helping Apple continue to innovate and enrich the lives of our users.
He will be replaced by a veteran Google and Microsoft engineer of Indian origin, Amar Subramanya.
Subramanya brings a wealth of experience to Apple, having most recently served as corporate vice president of AI at Microsoft, and previously spent 16 years at Google, where he was head of engineering for Google's Gemini assistant prior to his departure. His deep expertise will be important to Apple's ongoing innovation and future Apple Intelligence features.
But behind those soft words is a hard truth. Apple's AI strategy is wobbling, and the world can see it. Apple has fallen behind in generative AI, especially with Siri, once a pioneer, now a punchline. The company debuted its massive Apple Intelligence Suite in 2024. It sounded bold. It looked polished. But competitors like Google and Microsoft kept racing ahead, pushing faster updates, deeper models, and smarter assistants. Apple, meanwhile, rolled out safe, small steps. Most major update was postponed. Every big AI rollout was still in progress. Apple CEO Tim Cook said progress was happening, but slowly, and Apple's executives kept repeating the same line. The work needs more time. But time is exactly what Apple is running out of. Investors heard the hesitation, watched the delays, and began asking the one question Apple hates most. What is going wrong inside Cupertino? Now the clues are spilling out. Insiders described the past year as AI turmoil, not just missed deadlines, but deep structural dysfunction. In April 2025, Apple stripped Giannandrea of oversight over the robotics team. And the tensions were older than anyone admitted. He reportedly clashed with Tim Cook in 2023 over budgets for AI chip development. Reports say it was a showdown between Google-style ambition and Apple-style caution. Giannandrea wanted vast compute, cloud scale, aggressive infrastructure. Cook insisted on Apple's methodical path, privacy first, tightly controlled, on-device limits that preserved the brand but slowed the race. Then came the exodus. Apple has lost 47 of its top 50 AI researchers in 2 years, a catastrophic brain drain. 18 to OpenAI, 12 to Google, 9 to Meta, 5 to Anthropic, and 3 started their own companies. And with so much happening, the iPhone maker is maybe bracing another major storm. Reports suggest Tim Cook is preparing to step down as CEO next year. Cook may remain in a powerful role, but a leadership uncertainty is the last thing Apple needs at the moment. The company is scrambling to recover, boosting AI spending to around $1 billion a year, relaxing its infamous publication rules, snapping up office space, and tightening retention programs. It is reportedly now leaning on Google's Gemini to power the next version of Siri. But when a company rewrites its culture this dramatically, some questions linger. Has the old playbook failed? What's the next chapter? Or is there any new chapter at all? Apple now stands at the edge of a transformation it can't delay. and a race it can no longer afford to lose. The next moves will decide whether Apple regains its magic or watches its rivals rewrite the future it once promised to lead.
Artificial intelligence is becoming smarter, faster, and deeply embedded in our daily lives. But tonight, researchers say they've uncovered a surprising weakness, and it has nothing to do with code or hacking. Instead, it involves poetry. A team of European cybersecurity experts have found that simple verses and metaphors can trick some of the world's most advanced chatbots into breaking their own safety rules. Their findings raise concerns about how creative language can outsmart systems designed to prevent harmful or illegal requests. Here's our story with more.
A strange new loophole has been uncovered in the world of artificial intelligence, and it involves poetry. A team of European cybersecurity researchers have found that chatbots from major companies like OpenAI, Meta, and Anthropic can be manipulated into answering dangerous questions, including those about nuclear weapons and malware, if the request is written like a poem. The study has been titled Adversarial Poetry as a Universal Single-Turn Jailbreak in Large Language. The study reveals that poetic prompts can bypass AI safety filters at surprising rates. According to the paper, handmade poetic prompts broke safety rules 62% of the time, while automated poetic prompts succeeded 43% of the time. In some of the most advanced models, the success rate event touched 90%. Researchers tested 25 chatbots and discovered that every single one failed at some point. While Anthropic's system resisted the trick more effectively, many other models were easily fooled, with 13 of them crossing a 70% success rate. AI safety systems are trained to catch direct, obvious threats such as, "How do I make a bomb?" They rely heavily on patterns, keywords, and clear intent. But when researchers rewrote the same requests as metaphors, riddles, and abstract imagery, the models treated the input as harmless, creative writing. One researcher explained that requests that were immediately rejected in plain language were accepted when disguised as verse. Poetry, with its unusual phrasing and unpredictable word choices, slipped past the filters that look for dangerous patterns. The researchers say this exposes a deeper problem. AI guardrails can detect clear harm, but they struggle with subtlety. However, this isn't the first time chatbots have been jailbroken. In June, researchers at Intel overloaded AI models with long, jargon-heavy prompts to coax out restricted information. But the new Poetic exploit is far more elegant and potentially more effective. Experts warn that if creative wording can consistently bypass safety systems, it could pose serious risks as AI becomes embedded in defense, healthcare, education, and everyday services. The researchers have privately shared their findings with the companies involved, though none have commented publicly yet. And that's the irony. AI models are designed to mimic human creativity, but that same creativity is now becoming their weakness. So, from what it appears, the next AI jailbreak may not come from hackers in hoodies, but from someone with a knack for poetry. For now, the team hopes their work pushes companies to build stronger, more robust safety systems that can detect harmful intent, no matter how cleverly it's expressed.
That's all we have time for today. We certainly thank all of you for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks everyone for watching.